Hey guys, welcome to the second segment of Empowering Brokers with Jay Patel. In the previous segment, we understood the importance of incorporating technology into the real estate market. Jay also told us the drawbacks of paper listing sites and how it affects regular customers like me. So Jay, you were talking about the greatest asset theory. Can you tell us more about brokers' greatest assets?
This is really one of the most paramount, the most important things that we need to understand. What is a broker's greatest asset, right? Mm-hmm. Every broker has two types of clients. He has buyers and sellers. So if I was to ask you, you're not in the real estate business, but as an outside person, in your opinion, what is the broker's greatest asset? Is it the buyer or is it the seller? Who's more valuable?
The buyer, maybe?
I think many people that are watching would probably agree with you that the buyer is the greatest asset. I have to tell you that's not actually true. And I'll tell you something. They're both valuable, right? We agree that as a client, if you're in business, both clients are valuable. But there's one that's clearly more valuable, and that is a seller.
Oh, that's interesting. Why is that?
When you have a seller, let's say, for example, you want to sell a home, right? Mm-hmm. You come to me. You say, Jay, can you help me sell my property? So I'm happy to do that, Dwani. Once I take your property listing and I put it into the market, I may do many things. One of those might be place an ad on the building. Mm-hmm. Second, I may place an ad in a newspaper. Third, I might place an ad on sites like we talked about. I may actually buy one of these paper listing sites, as an example. Many brokers do that. So in that activity, what I am actually doing is promoting your property. Now, what happens when I promote the property is potential buyers that are in the market will see this advertisement and they call me, right?
Right.
So these buyers are calling me to help because they're interested in the property. Now, many of those buyers are not working with a broker. They're interested in buying a property, but they're not working with anyone. Mm-hmm. So those buyers, even if they don't like your property, I can still represent them and show them other properties, right? I mean, they could be a client of mine.
Yeah.
So the reason I say the seller is much more valuable as an asset to a broker than a buyer is because a seller can actually get the broker 10 new clients. But now let's take a look at from the buyer's perspective. Now let's say you're a buyer. You say, Jay, I want to buy a 2 BHK flat in Andheri. I say, wonderful, Dwani. What's your budget? You give me all your information. Now I have to do a lot of work. I have to go into the market. I source all the properties. I visit all these different portals, which unfortunately we've seen. They have a lot of junk information. Right. I also put up messages on my WhatsApp group because every broker is a part of dozens of WhatsApp groups. And I also look at my own inventory to see what I have. Now you want to see the properties that you like. Right. So I'm going to run you all over town, all over Andheri, maybe other parts of Mumbai. And then in the end, you may or you may not buy from me. Because just like you're working with me, we know in India, many people work with other brokers. So there is no guarantee you're going to buy this property from me. Mm-hmm. So why I say the seller is more valuable is very simple. When that seller gives me a listing, I'm going to market that listing. I can do that even from my own home or my office. And that seller can result in 10 new potential clients for me. But that buyer, he's a very valuable client. And when he buys from me, of course I will earn a commission. But I have to do twice or sometimes 3 times as much work. But there's no guarantee that he's going to buy from me.
But how does the broker turn this asset into the income?
I think one thing we can do for you and as well as our viewers is play a small game, a fun game, right? Oh. Have you ever played a game called Monopoly?
Yes, I have when I was much younger, of course.
Great. Let's have some fun with this, shall we? All right. Let's assume you're a broker, all right?
Okay.
And you've got some listings. Mm-hmm. You want to sell them.
Right.
What sites would you advertise on? Let's assume you want to go ahead and market these properties. Which sites are you going to advertise on?
The usual ones, like the common sites like Magic Bricks and 99 Acres.
Sure, and there's many others. Mm-hmm. But let's take those for example right now.
Right.
Now let's assume that you've chosen these sites and you have this listing. And let's also assume that you have a budget of about 30,000 rupees.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Before we get started, let's establish what is the primary objective of the game of Monopoly?
To get all the properties and all the money.
Absolutely right, right? And the real estate business is no different. For a broker, he's basically trying to do the same thing.
Right.
He wants to get as many property listings as he can because we established the listing is his greatest asset, right? Now, you take your most valuable asset, these property listings, and you give it to the portals because you want to sell it. But what else do? You also take your money because it costs money to advertise and you give that also to the portals. So you've given them your listings and your money to go ahead and market your properties, right?
But Jai, once I advertise, it's going to cost me to advertise on their sites, right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. But you know what? It doesn't have to. Because this is the one thing that most brokers don't understand in this country. And also, for that matter, not just brokers, even regular people, is that this listing, which we've already established, is your greatest asset. You are taking that and giving it to a portal. But did you know that that listing is equally as valuable to the portal as it is for you as a broker?
Oh.
Absolutely, because let's think about this for a moment. So in order to fully understand, we have to recognize, how does the portal generate its revenue or get its hundreds of crores in valuation, right? They do that because of our listings. Our listings are like gold for the portal. Without our listing, they have no valuation. And think of it another way. If we don't put our listings, meaning the brokerage community as a whole, all the brokers in this country, if they tomorrow stopped putting their listings onto these portals' websites, what would happen? The portals would have no consumer traffic, because who's going to go on a website that has no listings? If there's no traffic, then there's going to be no revenue, because who's going to advertise on a website that has no traffic? If there's no traffic and there's no revenue, there's no valuation. What I am saying here is that without our listing, which is our greatest asset, it is also the portal's greatest asset. Right. So my question to you is, do you absolutely have to pay them money? Shouldn't they be paying you?
Exactly.
And this is what's not happening in this industry. But when you look at our game of Monopoly that we were playing, you took your property listings and you gave it to the portal.
Right.
And then what else did you do? You took your money out of your pocket and you gave it to the portal. So guess who wins this game of Monopoly?
The portal.
The portal's won. So my fellow brokers, I want to encourage you to take a strong step back and really recognize and understand, what is your greatest asset? And when you do that, you'll realize that the hard-earned time and money and everything you're putting forward in acquiring these assets, we are today giving them away to these portals and we're making them valuable. And in the end, how are we getting repaid? We have no benefit, but what's happening at the end is that they raised our rates every year, because now, this year, we're going to pay 15% more to advertise our property listings on these sites compared to what we spent last year. And it was 15% last year more than it was the year before.
Oh my God, I never thought of it that ways. So once we step back, we understand that brokers are actually giving away their listing and properties to the portals, and the portals in a way are charging them more and more fees every year, right, to advertise on their site.
Yeah, but you forgot one other thing. They're not only giving their listings, they're giving their money as well.
Right.
So it's huge, but it's much worse than that.
What? Much worse than this? You've got to explain this in the next video. So guys, stay tuned for this.